In the cold aisle he swore was locked down. The calendar square arrived at 6:09 p.m., neat as a kernel log. Founders Showcase, Helios Cloud Campus, late. 2 minutes later, Noah texted, "Don't wait up. Ops wants me to peek at a thermal blip in DC2 after the speeches. Proud of me." Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence asks for diplomatic immunity. I turned the chickpeas down to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity and looked across the rail spur at the Helios buildings. At dusk, the mirrored cubes soften into something almost human. The window bands glow like a heartbeat a little too confident. The square on my phone pulsed once and then behaved. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes unnecessary is the only honest verb available. At 6:27, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't know and a message that knew me anyway. If the showcase is in the auditorium, why did he just badge into DC2 and then through the man-trap to a cold aisle? Staff door at the East Freight. Reader hates witnesses, cover it and pull. I can stall the sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, B, as if the alphabet had leaned against a server rack and promised not to complain. Blake runs nights with the calm of someone who can hear a bearing think about quitting. He and Noah speak a dialect made of heat maps and donor moods. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes beside the diesel tanks where the city pretends it never needs help. Once we laughed hard enough, a fisheye dome camera tilted like it wanted to learn timing. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than most men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my badge logs aren't," he sent back. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up there when they want oxygen. Because locked down is keep out, the way champagne is hydration. The East Freight sat in a breeze that smelled like cardboard and ambition. I covered the reader's sulking red eye with my palm and pulled. The bar gave up its argument. Inside, the corridor breathed chilled air and fluorescent honesty. A floor stencil reminded me to ground myself. I had already done that badly at 19 and again last winter. The first man-trap asked me if I understood doors. The second asked if I meant it. The room beyond tolerated visitors the way a cathedral tolerates pilgrims who don't know how to read. DC2 is a city that decided to become exhale. Racks stand in black rows, indifferent, enthroned on raised floor, their faces blinking small confessions. Cold air marches through the white-tiled aisles like a well-behaved ghost. Warm air flees above into a plenum that minds its own sins. Somewhere a PDU's clicks like a patient metronome. On the third aisle from the east, under a sensor that wanted a friend, Noah stood with his jacket off and his shirt open, one button past credible, tie folded into his pocket like a plausible denial. Opposite him, braced against the end cap, 2 fingers resting on steel like it owed him dividends, was Sterling Vale. Developer, board vice chair, a roomer with a yacht, a private theater, and the malice of a man who calls technicians engineers when someone is listening. His other hand hovered near Noah's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when your brand buys reliability and invoices discretion. "Lockdown looks social," I said. Noah turned. For a beat, Truth used his face like an unencrypted feed. Then the version of him that believes in agendas and ushers arrived, breathing like he'd memorized it. "Jace," he said. How did?" "Blake likes nouns," I said. "I like doors." Sterling smiled in the tone of people who have private lounges in public buildings. "We were discussing airflow," he said. "Patrons delight in the invisible when it performs." "I prefer performance that doesn't need an audience," I said. Noah took 1 step toward me and let the tile keep the second. "We were listening for a whine under load," he said. He wanted to hear the fans without the speeches. Sound is persuasive, Sterling said, lifting both hands like tasteful parentheses. 2 minutes. The sweep is punctual, my driver is an artist. He drifted toward the CRAC units where status lights practiced understatement. As he passed, 2 fingers tapped Noah's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. The aisle shivered politely. Noah watched me the way men watch weather when they hope it hasn't selected a city. I was going to text you, he said, lower now, using the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. After. I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it rename me. You wanted to be caught, I said, not punished, caught. He exhaled. A temperature sensor drew the breath on its face and pretended it knew what to do. Yes. There is a temperature at which grammar resigns. I crossed the cold aisle and put my mouth on his because steel deserves honesty and air deserves witnesses. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded nightly by applause and long rows of blinking nothing. He tasted like Gala bourbon and fluorocarbon, a little clean, a little manufactured. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid under my shirt and settled flat between my shoulder blades like a promise that refuses notarization. We didn't undress. Cameras up here learn fast and infrastructure expects modesty. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He touched his forehead to mine. The rack fans harmonized like a choir that decided to keep its day job. I didn't kiss him, he said. I wanted to want to, I texted Blake. You did, I said. He prefers oxygen to salvage. From the CRAC, Sterling tilted his head with the tidy curiosity of a man who assumes every room was designed to flatter him. He didn't approach. The hot aisle above pretended not to eavesdrop. Hot aisles are professionals. Come home, Noah said. After I thank the person who hears bearings from a hallway away, I said. Blake waited where the cold aisle met across corridor, lanyard looped around 2 fingers, stillness persuading servers to believe in uptime. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. Sweep hits Rose C through E in 90, he said. If you don't want to explain your lives to a flashlight that can quote your shoe tread, cut behind the UPS room, take the ladder to staging, out through the cage. The loading cam believes every crate is a crate. You sent the message, I said. I opened a door, he said. You two remembered how to walk. Behind UPS the hum becomes intent. Batteries the size of Covenant sit in lines and do not blink. The ladder brought us down into staging where racks sleep before they grow opinions. The cage door gave us to the dock gave us to night, and night pretended not to notice. We chose sidewalks over lobbies. Sidewalks don't write captions, and the Helios floor is excellent at captions. In the kitchen, the chickpeas forgave me for mistaking patience for character. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Sterling had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for a month, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness empties your pockets. I told him Blake had texted because some people choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Blake and I had ever been colossally stupid together. I didn't say how the blue light of a maintenance panel turns Blake's mouth into punctuation that finally knows its job. We didn't fight. There wasn't theater left to sell. Later, in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and then let it surrender because the night had already billed us for restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning. It was heat without spectacle. The building minded its radiators. Across the spur, Helios practiced forgetting names and we encouraged it. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. Sunlight laid responsible rectangles across the table like invoices we didn't dread. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this city is the kink we can afford. Noah tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to explain resilience to a breakfast that confuses redundancy with virtue. At 9:13, a text arrived from a number saved under one letter. No DC2 cam saw anything but grills. I looped a thermostat calibration for 20. Consider it training. I sent, you're very proud of your training. He replied, I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct. By noon, a tech blog posted Sterling in a photo op beside a wall of blinking nothing with a caption about stewardship and the invisible backbone. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:26, Noah texted a picture of our kitchen plant basking in a perfect square of sun. Room exists, he wrote. The week pretended to be a maintenance window you could believe in. Sterling sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Noah read to the part where the commas began to behave like a harness and set it face down. He pressed his forehead to my temple for a patient 7 count. Air went back to work. 2 nights later, Helios hosted Night at the Knock. Honest wristbands, real families, kids learning that the internet lives in buildings shaped like silence. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Blake nodded once from the back row like an usher who had already chosen a side. Sterling shook Noah's hand while a photographer taught server bezels to glow. A reporter asked about legacy. Noah pointed to a tech kneeling to show a teenager how to check a fan without scolding the dust and said, legacy is what keeps rooms gentle. And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. After, we walked the spur and let the freight yard rehearse its scripture of slow. Noah slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the night kept the secret. We scorched dinner and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still, 2 silhouettes in the reflection of a rack door, one hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement, the comments rented outrage and billed by the breath. I put my phone face down beside the plant and watched the plant win. Noah texted a different image. DC2 at noon. Blake showing a teen intern how to clean a filter while a temperature graph confessed contentment. Our version works for a living, he wrote. Sunday arrived with weather that had memorized moderation. Blake texted, floors quiet. Want a stool where nobody sells you a seat? We went. He poured us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which sensor lies first, why you never trust a door that apologizes, and the tiny change in fan pitch that means a bearing is about to tell the truth. He didn't flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think uptime is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. Midweek, the foundation staged a press moment to announce scholarships for hardware techs. Noah spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and the joy of maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Sterling promised to help the city meet its milliseconds on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Noah's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. You're both very good at exits, he said. Practice, I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with an adjective habit implied Noah's access came courtesy of private tour. The piece included a photo of racks that could have been any racks and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I took the plant to the sink and let water talk to its roots like a promise we could keep. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. On a wet Thursday, Blake sent a single word, weather, and we met him by the intake where rain negotiated with louvers. He showed us which drain floods first, where to stand when lightning auditions near big metal, and how to hear the faint hesitation that means a UPS will miss its cue without kindness. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name out loud. 3 people wide beneath the hum, we let the storm remove adjectives we didn't need. Life kept refusing to be purchased. Sterling kept sending commas that wanted homes. Noah kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that turns vanity domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose, because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, close to midnight, we walk the perimeter road and look through the high windows. From outside, you can't see the cold aisles or the small, decent posture of a man who teaches heavy things to be gentle. You can only see a quiet glow pretending not to belong to anyone. That's as it should be. We circle the block and go home without letting the building perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the cold aisle and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Sterling paused by the CRAC like a man who wants to buy air and discovering it doesn't invoice. Sometimes I think about Blake's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let Helios keep its speeches and the city its applause. We have the loading cage, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse redundancy. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like fans settling into kindness, and a morning we can afford, and calling that enough.